All right, so by now you've probably seen our first two installments of the cheapest houses you can find on North Georgia lakes. So we've already covered Lake Lanier and Lake Nottely in North Georgia. And for the third installment, we are going to cover one of the smallest lakes in North Georgia, but probably one of the most exclusive lakes. Stay tuned and we will let you know which lake we're talking about. Hey everybody, my name is Tim Gibson. My channel is all about North Georgia real estate. You know that by now if you've been watching for any length of time. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We are putting out content all the time for you to find out about North Georgia. Of course, if you're thinking about moving to the area or if you just have questions, please reach out. My contact info is on the screen. All right, so if you stuck around this long, you're probably wondering, all right, spit it out. What lake are we talking about? Well, we're talking about Lake Rabun. Lake Rabun is a very small lake in very extreme northeast Georgia, very close to the South Carolina border. If you've traveled on US 441 out of Gainesville, out of Atlanta into North Carolina, you've probably passed very close to Lake Rabun. It's very close to a town called Clayton, Georgia, which is just south of Franklin, North Carolina. All right, so a little bit of background on Lake Rabun. It is a reservoir just like many of the lakes in North Georgia. Lake Rabun is tiny, it's minuscule in comparison to Lake Lanier, which is massive, and even Lake Nottely, which has over 100 miles of shoreline. Lake Rabun only has about 25 miles of shoreline. All right, so Lake Rabun was formed in around 1915, I believe, to provide hydroelectric power, that's a big word for me, to Atlanta, Georgia. And it is a really cool little place to visit or maybe buy a house. And we'll talk about that here in a second. All right, so where in the world is Lake Rabun? Like I mentioned, it is in Rabun County, which is a very small county in extreme northeast Georgia, very close to the South Carolina border. I don't cover Rabun County a lot, so this would be a good opportunity for me to cover Rabun County just a little bit so you can get some background. The population of Rabun County is only about 17,000 people, which is small even by North Georgia standards. Good thing about Rabun County, even though it's a small county in the North Georgia mountains, the school ratings are pretty good if you're thinking about moving to the area and you've got school-age kids. School ratings, A-, which is a good grade, of course, unless you're a perfectionist like me. So the schools, there's 2 elementary schools, I believe, 1 middle and 1 high school. There's also a very, very good private school. It's called Rabun Gap Nacoochee School, and kind of an exclusive, very nice private school up in the North Georgia mountains. So if you want to send your kid to a private school in a very beautiful area, maybe this is a good spot for them. Okay, so just to cover, like we do in a lot of these videos, just to cover some of the basics of the area if you were to choose to live here, we're talking about grocery stores in the area close to Lake Rabun. You're probably sensing a common theme here. You've got an Ingles. I think just about every small town in North Georgia has an Ingles for grocery shopping. You've got Walmart. You've got a couple of local places, Holistic Mountain Market, Betty's Country Store. You do have an IGA, which is a bigger grocery chain that you can see kind of sparsely across North Georgia. All right, so for shopping, you're also sensing a common theme here. Like I mentioned in a lot of my videos, North Georgia is rural, you know, with a population of 17,000 people in Rabun County. You just don't have a lot of options. Some people view that as a good thing, you know, like if you're coming from the suburbs in South Florida or Central Florida somewhere, and you got a strip mall in every corner, you got 3 outlet malls down the road from you, there's traffic everywhere. Maybe you don't care to drive to go shopping, or maybe you'll shop on Amazon. That being said, you've got a couple of mom and pop shops in Rabun County, close to Lake Rabun. All that being said, there is a really cool place to shop in Rabun County. It's close to Tallulah Gorge. It's a brand, and they have their own store. It's called Wander North Georgia. It's great outdoor apparel, great outdoor gear for people who like to do things outdoors. Awesome clothing store and brand to check out. All right, so for things to do in Rabun County, I wanted to mention this. This is one of the most popular places for people to visit in North Georgia. It's a state park called Tallulah Gorge State Park. Tallulah Gorge is a massive state park. It's over like 2,500 acres or something like that. There's 6 waterfalls. There's a bunch of hiking. You do whitewater rafting, do all kinds of stuff. And the highlight, I think, for the entire thing is Tallulah Gorge, which is like 1,000 feet gorge that has been carved into the rock by the Tallulah River. So Tallulah Gorge State Park, awesome place to visit. It's very close to Lake Rabun, maybe, I don't know, 15-20 minute drive from the lake. All right, so let's jump into some real estate. What are the cheapest houses you can find on Lake Rabun? Like I mentioned, it's one of the most exclusive lakes in North Georgia, partly because of the small shoreline. What can you get? Can you find anything for under $1 million? Well, we're gonna show you right here. We're gonna show you the 3 cheapest houses you can find Number 1 on the list, we're going to talk about 83 Wet Rock Lane, and that is in Lakemont, Georgia, right there on Lake Rabun. All right, so 83 Wet Rock, what is the deal on this house? We are looking at a pretty nice house here. It's about 1,500 square feet, 1,455, built in 1966, so it's been around a while. And it's on about a 1/4 acre. So this house has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Looks like a kind of a classic ranch house here. Really nice outdoor seating area, lots of outdoor space, which is exactly what you'd expect from a lake house in North Georgia. Doesn't look like you have much of a view there, just food for thought. Interior looks awesome, looks like it's been updated. Very cool kind of rustic accents here. One thing to note about this house is that it does not have its own dock. $640,000 is a very inexpensive price for Lake Rabun. And I think we can kind of see why here. It looks like they parked their boat right here on the shore. I don't know if you have to have a permit for that in Lake Rabun or not. Maybe they have some sort of a deal worked out with the neighbors, but just so you know, that's what you're looking at with this house. Although you're technically on the water for $640,000 on Lake Rabun, which is a great deal. So that was our first house, $640,000, no boat dock. So we'll see what we've got next. Up next, we have 1520 Bear Gap Road. That's in Lakemont. Let's dive in. We'll check out some of the details, show you a couple photos, and let you know what this one's all about. All right, so 1520 Bear Gap Road. We are just under $900,000 at $895. 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and just under 1,800 square feet. You're looking at 1,760 square feet. One thing you'll see on Lake Rabun specifically, and sometimes these other lake locations, so you don't see a lot of garages. Most of the time because these are not full-time residences, although you can live full-time if you choose to. All right, so this is a nice house, very rustic on the inside. You can see these, looks like these are real wood beams up here. You got the big kind of hearth fireplace here, stone fireplace. Nice kitchen. I mean, it's a super cool house. You got some updated accents, but it's still rustic. A lot of outdoor space, which is what you would want. All right, so this house has what you see a lot on Lake Rabun and sort of the sister lake, which is close by, called Lake Burton. You've got these very nice sort of elaborate dock houses. And these are sort of unique, at least to these 2 lakes, because you don't have this type of dock house on Lake Lanier. But as you can see, you got the big giant, upper deck here with the covered space and the fans and the seating area. You also have, you've got 2 slips for your boats or your jet skis or whatever. Very nice dock, and you can see this is kind of a cool thing here. Some of these overhead photos will actually show you kind of how it sits on the lake. This is a super nice house and just under $900,000, which is honestly pretty inexpensive for Lake Rabun. All right, and last but not least, we're gonna go over one more house here on Lake Rabun. And like I mentioned, this is one of the most exclusive lakes in North Georgia. House prices are very expensive because there's not a lot of shoreline and not a lot of houses for sale in the area. That being said, we're going to look at the 3rd cheapest house we can find on Lake Rabun in September 2024. Don't laugh at me. This house is like $2.8 million, but the house is it's located at 32 Lighthouse Lane in Lakemont, Georgia. Let's get into the details. Okay, here we go. So like I mentioned, this house is $2.895 million. Right there, just under $2.9 million. Fantastic house. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, about 2,800 square feet. As you can see, it's just right there on the lake. I mean, you got a massive outdoor seating area, 2 decks, huge covered porch. Right there on the water, you got great water views, which the other 2 did not have. You got rustic accents inside, which is very common up here in the area. Big giant stone fireplace all the way up to the ceiling. Like I mentioned a second ago on the second house, this boathouse is just fantastic. You can see here, you've got a huge covered seating area on top, and you've got a nice covered space for both of your boats or your jet skis, whatever water toys you got there. And just some of these pictures, you can kind of see too how serene and how beautiful the lake is up here at Lake Rabun. $2.895 million. That is the 3rd most inexpensive house you can find on Lake Rabun. This house is fantastic. And when I think of Lake Rabun and I think of, beautiful lake house tucked away in the North Georgia mountains, I think of a house like this. All right, so what did you think? I told you Lake Rabun is a very exclusive lake in North Georgia, not a lot of houses for sale. I was actually kind of surprised that we found a couple of houses under $900,000. And then with it being such an exclusive lake, you saw that we jumped up from $895,000 all the way up to almost $3 million. So you tell me, what did you think about these houses? What did you think about the prices? What did you think about the area, Lake Rabun? Leave me some comments. I love to read the comments. Yeah, if you're thinking about moving to the area or maybe listing a house in North Georgia, please reach out. My contact info is on the screen. We'll see you on the next video.